Well, don't you worry. Open your Bibles with me to Matthew chapter 28. I'm a preacher. We got to go to the Bible. I'm sure there's people like I have been and sometimes still am. Why on earth do we need to go to somewhere like Mexico? We got enough problems of our own right here. I agree with you. We do have a lot of problems right here. I just shared last Sunday at our homecoming service, part of my call to this church specifically is that I believe I'm on mission right here at First Baptist Brooklyn to the Brooklyn community. I think this is a mission field. And if you're not already seeing it that way, you need to begin to see it that way because we are doing missions as a church here locally in our community. And if we don't do it, there's not anybody really else who is. And so we need to take missions seriously. But our missions mandate, our call to go, comes to us in Matthew chapter 28. And it is a call that is not only for here, but is for all of the world. Start with me in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18. And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth." Why is Jesus saying that? Because you need to listen to him. If you ever doubted him, all authority on heaven and on earth has been given to him. Listen up. Go, therefore. That is while you're going, certainly. That's always emphasized when someone translates this passage. But it's also that we ought to go out. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And so there's a command, certainly, for us to go. There's a reason that we go, and it is not just because we want to go. It's not just because we chose Mexico, but it's because God has given us a command to go, and we ought to do that to the ends of the earth. I do see our church right now in our current missions climate as one that does a lot of stuff right here, homegrown missions. We have some missions partners from Guatemala in times past and Honduras in recent years. But other than that, we don't really do a whole lot of missions as a church. We do a lot of praying, we do a lot of giving, but we don't do a lot of going. And so Brother Randy Sims of the Pine Belt Baptist Association reached out to me and he said, "Of all the pastors in the association, you're the first person I'm making this call to. You want to go on a mission trip to Mexico with me." And that brings me to, well, let's see if I can get this going. Let's see, Anthony. This is beyond my scope. Oh, no. Did you do that or did I? You did that. Oh, no. That means I'm going to have to tell you to switch every time. That's okay. I love it when you work for me. Yep, I'm gonna give it to you every time. There's only 103 slides, so I'll only have to say that 102 more times. So that brings me to, what kind of mission trip is this? So the type of mission trip that I went on was one that was put on by the Mississippi Baptist Convention and was it was just pastors and missions leaders in a few different churches across the state of Mississippi. Some of us flew out from Memphis because they're in North Mississippi. Some of us flew out from Gulfport because they are in South Mississippi. Me and Randy, and most of them flew out of Jackson. Jackson just happened to be the one that we got slotted to. We didn't really get a say so, and we didn't want to rock the boat and changed up. But anyway, it's pastors from across the entire state of Mississippi. And our purpose, this is what's called a vision trip, and that's probably a trip that you've never been on before because it's primarily for pastors and for church leaders to go and to see what opportunities are available in the given country, the given location where they're going to be doing missions. And so a lot of people asked me, well, how many professions of faith did you have? How many this did you have? How many that did you have? And that's not a statistic that I can give you because I did a whole lot more watching ministry and seeing what opportunities there are than doing ministry. Now, when you get 12 pastors in one place at one time, you know ministry is going to happen. So don't you worry. I'm going to tell you the stories of all of that here in just a moment. But the point is to say, and I said it to Blake, and I think this is the best way to describe it is, we were never in one given area on one specific task for much longer than an hour or two at a time. We traveled all around Oaxaca to see if I was to bring a team back, because that's the point, is for me to bring a team of the church back and to do ministry there, what would I be getting into? So what kind of mission trip? Certainly a vision for me to scope things out. But here's the role that I saw myself in as I did minister amongst the people there. So if you'll flip with me, indulge me for a few scriptures. We were supposed to look at pictures tonight. We will. But first, let's go to Romans chapter 1. I've got many pictures for you, 102 more clicks. Romans chapter 1, verses 11 through 12 is one example of Paul speaking to a church in his letters about why he wants to come visit them. We often forget that Paul is not your typical pastor. He's more of a typical missionary. He's on mission and he's starting and planning churches throughout the world that they know in that time. And he's not been to Rome yet, but we see in Romans chapter 1, verses 11, 12, why does he want to go? For I long to see you so that I may impart some spiritual gift to you that you may be established. So certainly verse 11, he wants to do some work there. But verse 12, that is, that I may be encouraged together with you while among you, each of us by the other's faith, both yours and mine. I see what I went and did. If I had to say what ministry was accomplished while I was there, encouragement. Missionaries live a very lonely life. They don't have a lot of people who come in and encourage them. As we heard from Brother Randy in the message, in the video this morning for Associational Missions, Brother Randy's whole line was, being a pastor can be a lonely job. It can be. How much more if you're in a country where nobody else speaks the language that you speak? Nobody else is from the place that you're from. And you're on a task where oftentimes it seems like it's going less and poorer than you would imagine it would. It's not a hustling and bustling, booming megachurch that missionaries often find themselves in. And instead, that encouragement is necessary. And so us group of pastors, we did a lot of praying. We did a lot of encouraging. We did a lot of listening, which is hard for pastors who often run their mouth, right? And so we did a lot of listening and encouraging in that. Another instance we see this is in the book of Acts. If you'll flip with me to Acts chapter 11, maybe because I'm flapping my gums, you're already there at Acts chapter 11, verses 19 through 24. A similar situation here. Acts chapter 11, verses 19 through 24. So then, those who were scattered because of the persecution that occurred in connection with Stephen made their way to Phoenicia and Cyprus and Antioch, speaking the word to no one except to Jews alone. But there are some of them, men of Cyprus and Cyrene, who came to Antioch and began speaking to the Greeks also, preaching the Lord Jesus. And the hand of the Lord was with them, and a large number who believed turned to the Lord. The news about them reached the ears of the church at Jerusalem, and they sent Barnabas off to Antioch. Look at Barnabas' job here in verse 23. It's a church that's been really ran off and now is being reestablished. Verse 23, then when he arrived and witnessed the grace of God, he rejoiced and began to encourage them with a resolute heart to remain true to the Lord. For he was a good man, full of the Holy Spirit and of faith, and considerable numbers were brought to the Lord. And so I see this as an encouragement type of mission trip. Where can I help you? I want to come alongside you. I want to pray for you. I got people back home who want to pray for you. If there was one thing that Jeff, the missionary who I'll introduce to you in just a moment, shared with me in this very last instance that we met together in the park right outside of our hotel there, as he sent us off to the airport for the last time, he said, put me on your prayer list. Put me on your prayer list. Pray for me. It's encouragement that they need there. It's a toil. It's a work. It's a hard task in mission. But I also wanted to see how we can sin. In Romans chapter 10, verses 14 through 15, gives us God's kind of procedures and plan for, well, how is the gospel going to get anywhere? And it's very logically laid out here in Romans chapter 10. This has to happen before this can happen, before this can happen. And certainly it's this type of strategy, it's this type of logistics that has to be thought out before we can go. Romans 10, verses 14 through 15, you've probably heard it before, but think of it with me now in kind of a logistics strategy type of way. How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? How will they believe in him whom they have not heard? How will they hear without a preacher? How will they preach unless they are sent? Just as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news of good things. And I think we can stretch outside of Romans 10:14-15 and say, well, how can they go if they don't know how to get on the plane? And how can they go if they don't know where they're going to stay? And how can they go if they don't know what they're going to do when they get there? And how can they go if they don't know what to expect when they have to sit down at the table and eat? And all of these questions are valid ones. These are the purpose of my mission trip to Mexico. Now, y'all gonna have to liven up and laugh a little bit because I'm taking selfies on the screen here in just a minute. They gave me full command of everything that goes in this PowerPoint, and you know I'm silly, so y'all get ready. Give me that next slide, Anthony. There I am. There I am on the plane, touching down in Oaxaca. If you look out my plane window with me, up high in the sky, I had to lean over somebody's lap to get this one. You know, us preachers, when we sit next to each other on a plane, it don't take very long for us to get to know one another. But out the side of the window, maybe you can make it out. There's little speckles of houses and things, but it's not very, oh, I like that, Anthony. See, I couldn't do that with a clicker. It's not very densely populated. Now, this isn't all the way to Oaxaca City, and when we get there, you're going to see it is a metropolitan area. There's about 700,000 people who live in Oaxaca City, but outside of the outskirts of the city, which is where we did a lot of our looks at missions, it's very, very sparsely populated. But you'll also notice, if you'll zoom back out now, if you can see in the distance there, and you'll see lots of these pictures later, is it's very mountainous. So we got small villages and patches. It's a very mountainous region. Oaxaca is one of the states in Mexico, if you want to call it a state. I'm not sure if they would call it that or not. But it's also the name of the city itself. So I flew into Oaxaca City in Oaxaca, Mexico. And if you're looking on your bulletin, or maybe you've already looked at the way that that's spelled, it's spelled just the way it sounds. Oaxaca, Oaxaca. How else would you spell it? So just if that's already getting to you, yeah, exactly. But Oaxaca City has a population of about 700,000. And it was interesting because when we landed in the airport there in Oaxaca, I was expecting to cross on a jet bridge over into the airport. That's not how it works in a lot of Central American and South American countries. You unload right on the tarmac. And so here I feel like Donald Trump getting off of Air Force One, walking right onto the tarmac in Mexico. And so it was pretty cool to do it that way. But it's just immediately there were things that were just very strange and different. It was a little bit of a culture shock. I told Adrian, she's begged me to go internationally travel with her, and I say, I'm scared to go anywhere I don't speak the language because they could take advantage of me or this or that. You know, like that's a frightening thing. You could imagine if you went somewhere where you didn't know the language and you didn't know your way around, that might be a little bit of a daunting thing. And so we walk off the tarmac, we walk inside. Now everybody's speaking Spanish when the airplane was just in English, and it's a brave new world. We get through the customs, and we were told when you go through, you're here as a tourist and you're here to visit with friends. And that's a simple and truthful statement about your purpose that you're here for. And so here I am shaking at customs. I don't want to say the wrong thing and, freak out anybody. And so I go through and I tell them what I'm doing. And then I go around and there's armed Mexican military with gun in hand. I mean, on the trigger, yes, but like ready. And there's a button. Before you can exit out of this big room, there's a big red button, and they're gesturing for somebody to come over and press the button. Well, I just got off of Air Force One. I'll press the red button as Donald Trump. No. I volunteered for my group that was coming through to go press the red button. I have no idea what would happen if I pressed the red button and something different happened. They told me later if it changed colors, congratulations, that's their random search. And then I would have been in the back room getting searched by the Mexican military or whatever it was there. So it was a little bit daunting out the gate, but things certainly settled down quickly. If you'll hit that next screen for us. This was our mission team. This was Jeff's 42nd team of the year. And Oaxaca has 570 counties within the state of Oaxaca. And over 80 different people groups in Oaxaca. Those are mostly different languages. Now, I know you think everybody in Mexico speaks Spanish. Well, they do have understanding of Spanish. That's like the formal language. But these 80 different people groups, when you get outside of the main metropolitan areas, they don't speak Spanish. They speak an indigenous language. One of the people groups that we dealt with were the Zapotec people, and they speak their own type of language as well. And so it'd be news to you. It's interesting. It was interesting to me. One of the primary mission organizations that is on the field next to IMB is our International SBC Mission Board, is the Tyndale Bible translators. They're on the field out there in Mexico, and you'd say, well, why do they need more Spanish Bibles? They don't. They need the indigenous languages to take out to these people who don't have God's word, even just right down the road from us in Mexico. They don't have it in their own native language. And so there's lots of work, even on the onset of entering into Oaxaca and seeing what it's all about before you even meet anybody. But Jeff had 3 teams going at the same time during this week. Him and his wife, Lisa, are the primary missionaries on the field. They're in Oaxaca City for the IMB. And he took us around. His wife took First Baptist Church Oxford around. And then there was a group out of Oklahoma. I don't know who took them around. I think they had one of their journeymen. I'll talk more about that, or maybe I won't, later on. And it's one of their mission partners there. But he said they're projected to have 16 on the ground, full-time in Oaxaca personnel by this time next year. And so their team is rapidly growing. Their strategy there on the field is rapidly growing. He just returned to Oaxaca. He started there, I think he came the first time in 2012, stayed till about 2017, and he's just recently returned a year ago, September a year ago, back to the field there in Oaxaca. And so that's Jeff taking the selfie there with the red hat. He's a big Ole Miss fan, if you can't tell by his get-up. Everything was Ole Miss all week long with him. And then that's a bunch of dopey pastors from Mississippi behind him. And then there's one Hispanic fella back there right behind Jeff's red cap. That's Jose, our translator. And later on in the week, we also had Fernando, who was our translator. And if I don't talk any more about them, I'll front load now and say those are the guys who are doing the most work in Oaxaca right there. They speak the language. They understand the culture. They can make the relationships. And Fernando was a 25-year-old translator who came alongside us later in the week. And I really tried to talk with those translators and get an understanding, because I hope they realize the great mission they have. Without them, I'm nothing, because they're my microphone. They're my translator. They're the person who brings the words into the ears of the people who are there. He's truly doing the most work of ministry there. And so pray for Jose, pray for Fernando, and pray for Jeff, the missionary there on the field. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Traveling in Oaxaca. And one more for me. All right, here we are on the roads of Oaxaca. Right now, we're driving in the right lane. But there's no opportunity that we might not switch to the left here after a little while. It was a bumpy ride throughout. Mexico is riddled with speed bumps because they don't have their traffic laws are not really enforced. And so how do you slow people down? Instead of hiring somebody on the road to run radar, you put speed bumps down. And so if you don't slow down, you're going to get shook up. And let me tell you, your driver's not going to slow down. So if you go to Mexico with us, take some Dramamine before you get in the van, before you get in the car, because it don't matter if the missionary's driving, or if Jose is driving, or if the hired driver is driving. The most professional driver in all of Mexico drives like somebody crazy in Jackson, Mississippi, in New York City, and wherever you think people drive crazy, they drive it down there. I got worried a few times, Adrian. This is the first she's hearing of it, because I didn't want to worry and trouble her little spirit. So it's a wild ride, no matter who drives. If you'll click that next slide for me. Here was our accommodations for the week. Randy slept on the left there, and I slept on the right. It is a single twin bed, and this is high-class hotel there in the middle of Oaxaca City. The sheets were a little rough. The pillow was very hard. I had a crick in my neck by the end of the week. The mattress was likewise. They like it firm, apparently. But guess what? We had hot water. if you waited about 30 minutes for it to come on. A lot of the water there in Oaxaca is on a tank on the ceiling. And so here they actually had a pressure pump. So it's not just gravity that brings it down to you. But it came out pressured from the pipes, but it took a long time for the system to catch up and to give hot water. And so I say that to say, if you were to go on a mission trip, or if we were to send somebody on a mission trip, it's these types of creature comforts that we often take for granted that are something that we would need to be prepared for. But it is a trusted hotel. Jeff has even rented out every single room in the hotel for missionaries before who have come in on a trip. He knows the staff by name. It's very safe. That our room was never tampered with. We locked things in the safe and nothing ever went missing. They spoke really good English at the desk. And so it was like kind of you'd walk in and they'd say good evening to you and things like that. And so it was almost like retiring to America in a sense at the end of the day. But while it wasn't the most comfy, it was certainly very nice for those accommodations that we could have. If you'll click that next screen right across from our hotel, try it one more time. Yeah, I did that. So, okay, perfect. Yeah, look at me. Now we're rolling. All right, to the left, you'll see the park that was right across from our hotel. It was bustling every morning. People out there exercising and running around. Kids walking with their parents or walking by themselves to a Catholic church that has a school just right across the street. And so this was about I don't know if this that was the evening on the left. And then every morning I'd come out and I would do my devotional. It was right across from the hotel, Adrian. So don't freak out. All by myself. In the park right across from the hotel where I could get kidnapped. And I would do my devotional right there. And I put that picture there to say part of that encouraging and prayerful ministry is I might not speak the language, but you know what I can do? I can pray that God moves powerfully in this place. And so I would pray over those people as they would walk and come through on those mornings. And it was a really beautiful park. And so beauty everywhere that you can see. God's certainly there. Speaking of beauty, here are those mountains in the distance. The pictures do not do them justice. It was like every time I looked over my shoulder, I would say, wow, it's just beautiful, this country. There's some of the city up on the hill. That's in my wild ride. I'm taking that. Some more beautiful things, not that hairy fellow, but right behind him, that tree, there's just flowers just blooming in all the trees, just very beautiful. On the right there, this is the tourist city of Tule, and it's just manicured to a T. It's just a beautiful place. Did you know that they still have Mexican wrestling in Mexico? There were posters everywhere for Mexican wrestling. And then me and this guy right here, this was a restaurant we were about to go into, and this is the mural right behind it. Oaxaca was actually the location of the film Nacho Libre. If you're familiar with that film, yes, it is. And so part of my homework before I went on mission is the missionary assigned me to watch Coco. The Disney movie Coco was inspired, and they went here for an inspiration for the movie Coco. And then he assigned Nacho Libre as part of my homework. Interesting. Ole Miss and Nacho Libre. We got to pray for that dude. Oaxaca is a very safe place. They didn't point their gun at me to make me say that. The police ride around in the back of pickup trucks with assault rifles. So you don't mess with the police. They'll shoot you. So here he is just drinking a little drink as he enjoys his bumpy ride in his police gear. There was not a large police presence, but when you saw one, you didn't make eye contact because I don't want to find out what happens. No, Jeff said the police are great. I actually went on a mission trip when I was in about 8th grade to Reynosa, right over the border, and the police were very corrupt, and they would pull you over and extort money out of you. That was about around 2006, 2007. But here, the police, he's never had a problem with them. Anytime he's needed them for anything, they were very helpful. And so I say this to say Oaxaca is a very safe place. I never saw any crime. I never felt like I was ever in danger. I did not feel in any way. And they made me do kidnapper training right before I went down there. So I freaked out a little bit. And it was a very safe place. So a very wonderful place, very safe. Some of the things we got to do, though, is we got to see what it's like to make a living in Oaxaca. We went out to a village where this family has hand-woven rugs for years and years and years, generations and generations. And they gave us, let's see how many slides I have of it, a presentation of their rug making. She is there on the ground making the dye by hand. In this picture back here, he is spinning the yarn, the thread, by hand. And then on the right-hand side, she's using, I don't even remember the name of that, a loom, in order to make that by hand, those rugs. And she had a wide selection of them upstairs. I don't think I included one of those pictures in here, but there may be one on my Facebook page. These people, we actually went out to their village. There's no Baptist church in town. These people are not believers. And so one of the things that Jeff does is he makes relationships with these people, brings groups through just to have them do their rug demonstration, and he builds up that relationship in order that maybe one day he can present the gospel to them and lead them to Christ. And we'll talk more about the difficulties with that here in just a second. This is the Golden Church. It's a Catholic church in downtown Oaxaca City. It's called the Golden Church because on the right, you'll see it is very golden on the inside. It's a Catholic church, and so here's the front. It looks a little different than our front, the front of our church. Again, very golden. Off to the right there, that's Mary with baby Jesus in her hand. And then here were two of the large, I don't know what you'd call that, an altar, I suppose, off to the side. Very golden as well. Now, if you're not familiar with Catholicism, I'm not going to go on a Catholicism rant because Mexico, while they would say that they are a Catholic country, their Catholicism is very different than Catholicism that you would find in America. And so I'm going to make that distinction in just a moment. But the jumping off point for us to understand that is we first have to understand the big differences between the Baptist faith and the Catholic faith. And one of those is that you see there and in other pictures, there's a lot of statues that are utilized. In fact, in one of the side hallways of this church is St. Peter with a sombrero on his head. I thought that was super cool. I didn't get a picture of it because it was closed off, but it's back there. So when we go back, we got to check it out. But also a lot of the statues around here are the saints. And so the heroes of the faith play a very important role, as well as Mary in the Catholic faith. And that's going to be important for where we find the fine line between what we would call American Catholicism and Catholicism in Mexico here in just a moment. It's vastly different. If you go to Mexico, there's always something fun to bring back. The short cutie is not for sale, but she got her own luchador mask and her, what she calls Mississippi dress. So lots of fun to be had. But let's get into the most important thing, the food. Every day we got to eat delicious food. Now, you're either going to be on the fence, you're either going to be on that's delicious, or yeah, that's delicious. On the left, you see some breakfast. On the right, you see one of their local specialties, the tlayuda. It's like a quesadilla, but it has cabbage and Oaxacan cheese and all of those types of things. So super delicious. There I am eating a tlayuda that is the size of my head, just half of it on the right. But I've included that delicious picture of me on the left because one of the things you got to know if you're going to go to Mexico is you might be surprised at what's set down in front of you. There were no chips and salsa to be found. Not one time the whole time we were there. At the very first restaurant, the very first night, Jeff had never seen this in his entirety of his stay in Oaxaca. They sat down, not chips and salsa, but pickled onions and habaneros and a communal, everybody is supposed to get from this, pig's foot. And so that's me enjoying the pickled pig's foot that was for everybody. Nobody else wanted it, so I ate it. And it's exactly how you think it would be. It wasn't great. But as a great trooper deciding that I was going to have the full-blown experience, I did end up eating an entire foot of a pig. It was quite gelatinous. All right, keep rolling. There's some more beautiful. Oh, delicious. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. And Chris and Doug fed me a great lunch. They asked me if I got some street tacos. Y'all look. There's my street tacos over there. That was my first plate. I sent back for 4 more after that. We came back to the same location the next night, and I started off at 8 and ended at 12 tacos. Where do you put it, Brother Taylor? Don't worry about that. They were delicious. Sometimes you'll order things that you think you know what you're getting and you don't get what you had expected. This right here is a quesadilla. It does not look anything like a quesadilla because it's in a corn tortilla. So you might be a little surprised. You better be prepared to eat what's put in front of you. That's me with some very spicy Mexican street corn. Don't be fooled by the smile. I was in great pain in this picture. There was a lot of chili powder involved. Some delicious food. This is me eating tuna and burnt milk ice cream. No, not tuna fish. Tuna, the cactus juice with burnt milk. It was very strange, as you might have said. Look at my face. It's very strange. Oaxaca is the chocolate capital of Mexico. There's some hot chocolate. They made it right there in that little carafe. Served it up. Very delicious. This is what I like to call chocolate chicken. It's chicken mole. It's made with cocoa and lots of other spices. It's different, but you gotta try it to have the experience. This food was served to us. This was the most authentic food we had in a pastor's house, in a house church outside of the city of Oaxaca. And as any good Baptist preacher would, he served up chicken enchilada and chicken tamales. There was chicken in Mexico, hallelujah. Now, I show you this picture because many of you may say, that's the most sketchy food that you've got up there. It is. And this is the food, if any other food, you've got to eat. Because these people don't eat meat at every meal. These people fix this food. Oh, I'll show you later. There's a picture of her actually hand pressing the tortillas and cooking that in the back of the house. And it's the pastor's wife making all this for us. This is a great burden of love to cook for these 12 people who have come into her house. And to not eat that would be a big disgrace, be a big offense. And so I bring this up to say, hey, there's lots of cultural differences. And one of them is the food. If you're going into a country where the food is going to be a challenge, if Ricky Conley is going into the food where food would be a challenge, he's got to sit real close to me because when she turns her back, he's sliding it onto my plate. There's lots of those types of things. You don't flush your toilet paper in the bathroom. You have to put it in a trash can right next to it. You don't drink the water. Y'all already knew that one. There's communication barriers. There's all these different things. Speed of service. Everywhere we went, it took at least 1 hour before everybody got their food. Those types of things are cultural differences. And if you're not prepared for those things and not ready to work at accommodating those things, certainly that's going to be something that frustrates you and prohibits you from being able to effectively share the gospel and do the mission you're there for. Speaking of the mission you're there for, what are some barriers to the gospel? Here we go, getting into the nitty-gritty. On on 2 of our days there, Jeff sat down with us at First Baptist Church in Oaxaca. Yes, a real place. And he gave us a presentation on what are some of the issues that they face in bringing the gospel to Oaxaca. One of them is just like in America, it's the world. This is a teacher strike outside of a government building in Oaxaca. They've been there a while. They have tents. There was one guy, he actually did a missions stay there, and now he's a pastor in Mississippi. And he came back and he said, they're still protesting. He was there 8 years ago. They have to go to private school if they're going to get an education because the teachers are always on strike. But that's not the only thing that they're protesting. This is our road. To the right is that park I was showing you right across from the hotel. So one of the main central roads in town is shut down by this protest. Now, we're not sure what they were protesting, but let me show you some of the things that were graffitied. Oaxaca is full of graffiti as far as the eye can see because of protests. On the left, I showed you 2 windows. I zoomed in, and it says, Fuera Zionistas. Out, Zionists. What's a Zionist? It's a person who supports Israel. Right there in Oaxaca City. On the left, it says, Palestine, live Palestine, liberty. And on the right, Palestine will live in the hearts of the rebels. Is that right one? Rebels of the city. Something like that. This one is very offensive. If you know one Spanish word, it would be maybe the one that's up there. It is a curse word in Spanish. The first word is trans, and you can imagine in this talk of woke theology, trans is one of the words up there, and the other one is the B word. This is graffitied outside of a Catholic church on some plywood. Now you say, why is there plywood outside of the Catholic church? Because something more offensive was on the church itself. And they put up the plywood in order that they could remove that. And they came by even before they could remove it, and they graffitied on top of it. This is the barrier that you're dealing with, is people who are very antagonistic against faith. This one says Israel is genociders and they are the terrorist. This is another church to the left. You see some graffiti on it. I don't know what it says because I didn't zoom in far enough. So that's one of the things that you deal with. There's racist things that are graffitied everywhere. Out, gringo. Out, foreigner. They don't want, some of them, white people there, or people who don't look like them there. So there, you have to deal with that as well. And it's interesting, though, to see all of the political stuff, because we would expect that here, our president in our country has enough pull that we can make things happen in Israel and Palestine. We've seen that already, right? That's what's happening in the news. The people in Oaxaca City don't have the same pull. The Mexican president doesn't have the same pull. It's interesting that they would be involved in the same types of political protests. And I think what it shows most of all is their need for the gospel. They long to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They long to be a part of a movement. And they don't have one to get behind. The gospel has not reached them. But one of the biggest barriers to the gospel is the ancient traditional religions there in Oaxaca. Some of these Zapotec deities, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their name, but this is the mother of the gods in their traditional religion. Mother of earth, fertility, motherhood. She's that goddess. Here's another god. He is the god of the one who is all-knowing, always present, everywhere. And he's symbolized by the mirror because when he looks, he sees all things from the mirror. This one, he's got quite a name. Go ahead and try to pronounce that one. He's a creator god. That one's got an even funkier name. He's the god of the night. So all of those gods, you might think, well, nobody surely believes that in Oaxaca today. They know it. Here's a picture I took. It's a piece of corn. You might say, well, that's the street corn. No. Part of their ancient mythology is they believe that they are the people of the corn, that the gods raised them up and created them from corn. And they can tell you that. The translators were able to bring that mythology to life and say, oh yeah, this is what people believe here. There's this, at least this understanding of ancient history, an ancient story for them. Even if they don't believe it, this is something that's well known and common, and even in their murals on their walls as you walk around. So that's part of that tradition, and it's a religion that's still talked about and believed today in Oaxaca. And when you bring that alongside Catholicism, you get what's called folk Catholicism or syncretism. Syncretism is lies and truth mixed together, and you get what comes out. Some of it stems from truth, some of it stems from lies, but it's mashed together and mixed up to the point that you can't tell up from down. It looks like, in a lot of ways, that Mexico is Catholic, but it's been brought together with these ancient traditions to the point that they have taken Catholicism and turned it into something that's far more than that. Here's one example. I did not take this picture. Off to the right is a poem. You don't have to know what it says. I'm going to read it to you in just a moment. But this poem is posted in a church in Oaxaca. And this is the poem. They took our fruit. They cut our branches. They burned our tree. But they could not kill our roots. What's the purpose? Catholicism, the white man, the settlers, they came in and they destroyed all these things. They converted us in a sense, but they didn't kill our roots. It's still very much ingrained, this ancient religion in Oaxaca today. One of the ways you see that is Dia de los Muertos, or I'm probably saying that horribly, is the Day of the Dead. The Day of the Dead is a holiday. It's right after Halloween, so it resembles Halloween in a lot of different ways, some of the elements of death. But it's a holiday in which they believe that their ancestors are coming from the land of the dead into the land of the living. And it's not just, in some instances, it very well may be something very similar to Halloween, in which they oh, that's something we've always done. But in most instances, people truly believe that this is going to happen. The decorations can oftentimes be playful and cute, but they have a deeper meaning and a deeper belief behind them. They truly believe the dead are coming back each year during this holiday. An altar is often set up. Here we have, it's another playful one, but there's an altar of food and drink set up before the dead. Here is a true altar called an ofrenda. It's not as ornate as they will be by November 1 and 2 when they actually celebrate the holiday. But here is an important person, an ancestor, someone in the picture. You have the candle set out in front of her, the flower there. It's an offering to her that she might come back from the land of the dead into the land of the living, that she might stay a while, that she might eat, that she might enjoy family time, because it's essentially necromancy, bringing the dead back and into life. One of the ways that they decorate is papel picado, punched paper, and you see that is beautiful, but it's one of those symbols that you see everywhere, and it's the getting ready for this holiday. You see there on the right-hand side the mural of the skeleton painted on the wall, Day of the Dead. These are the alebrije. They're spirit animals that guide and protect the dead as they come into the land of the living. These are statues in town square. And so these statues are essentially idols of these spirit animals who are supposed to be helps for their loved ones to come back. When the dead, when people die, they put a smaller miniature alebrije in the coffin oftentimes, and it's the spirit animal that's supposed to guide them into the afterlife. And then these are set up in the land of the living to guide them when they come back. You can actually buy an alebrije in all of the gift stores in Oaxaca and bring back and put in your suitcase for when you die, if that's what you choose to do. I don't anticipate that you should do that. So that's part of it, but it goes a lot further than that. Some Catholic churches in Mexico practice ancient rituals in their church alongside Catholicism. There are, in places that are rural, chickens sacrificed right in front of Mary as an offering upon the steps, upon the altar. Catholicism is essentially in this place taking the place of a polytheistic system, and they're just attempting to appease as many saints, as many gods, as many virgins, as many whatever as they can in order that they might have a fair outcome. Witch doctors still exist, and they blend the ancient magic with a Christian biblical worldview magic, sometimes white magic calling on saints and God to do their bidding, but other times they'll call on Satan himself to do their bidding. All of this is this syncretism, the truth mixed with lies, shaken up together and poured out, and you get this very confused backdrop. People will pray to unofficial or regional saints connected with ancient traditions and sacrifice animals and other things in front of statues of Mary and local Catholic churches outside of those tourist areas. They'll also go on miraculous pilgrimages. If you'll open with me to the Gospel of John real quickly. Hope you're entertained. We're going to be here for a minute. I'm getting long-winded in my old age. John chapter 5, this story, as soon as I heard about this religious site, this story from the Bible popped into my head. I said, this sounds too familiar. John chapter 5, verses 1 through 9, I'll use it as a biblical backdrop for this miraculous shrine here. John chapter 5, beginning in verse 1. After these things, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porticos. In these lay a multitude of those who were sick, blind, lame, and withered, waiting for the moving of the waters. For, and I'll supply a word here so I don't have to do as much explaining, for they believe an angel of the Lord went down at certain seasons into the pool, stirred up the water, and whoever then first, after the stirring up of the water, stepped in, was made well from whatever disease with which he was afflicted. A man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, and knew that he had already been a long time in that position, he said to him, "Do you wish to get well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me." Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your pallet, and walk." Immediately the man became well and picked up his pallet and began to walk. Now it was on the Sabbath on that day. So this story, we have a miraculous sight The people in Jesus' day believed if you get in the water, it will make you well. This is the exact same type of site here. This is a big tree that you can see above right here, and it's growing out of this pool. Here, let me go. Out of this pool right here. And it is a ancient miraculous site. There's buckets. It's fenced off, but people jump the fence, climb down in there, get a bucket of water. You can't touch the water. That's the ancient rules. But you get a bucket of water and you pour it on yourself, or you drink it, or you bathe in it, or you do something with it. And this stagnant, nasty water, I mean, it looks nasty, is supposed to miraculously heal you. Next to the pool, you can see they have a statue, an idol. It's Mary and Jesus. They believe that Mary watches over the water, and they sacrifice here to Mary in order that the healing might happen for them. But the site itself is not linked to Catholicism. The site is linked to their ancient practices, put together, shaken up, and this is what you get. And so this place is one of the places we went, and this is what's called an unreached people group. The people here, very few of them, if any, believe in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Very few of them would call themselves Christians. And I'll pause here to say, when you ask people, are you a Christian in this culture? They say, no, I'm Catholic. That's the difference to them. They don't believe that Catholicism is Christian. That's a totally different thing to them because it's all blended together in a sense. And so this is an unreached people group, and there were 5 young boys, ages 10, 11, 12, all the way to 15, and we said, do you know what this pool is, what this is? And they gave us the story and told us how we could go down and get some water if our leg was hurting. They believe to this day that this is a place that can make you well. This is an ancient site for them, but they actually believe it. And we asked the question, well, what if nothing happens? What if I go down there and get the water and nothing happens? Well, that's your problem. You didn't have enough faith. You didn't do it right. It's on you that it didn't happen. It's very much like the prosperity gospel in America today. So there's lots of barriers. Some of those are these miraculous sites that are blended in, but there's also this blending of the church itself with these ancient sites. Here are some Aztec ruins, and at the very top of those Aztec ruins is a Catholic church. Do you know what they used to do right here? They used to sacrifice humans. Why would they put a Catholic church at the top? Not to say that God has conquered the Aztec people, but to preserve the traditional space where human sacrifice was done. They blend it together in order that they might retain that traditional and ancient location. I actually went to this one. This is a big tree. I'll talk more about it in just a moment. Next to a Catholic church. It is the widest tree in the world. The Mexican translator, he called it the Gordo tree, the fat tree. And so here is me comparing fat with the tree. But it's an ancient site. They believe that the tree holds some type of magical spiritual powers. They put a Catholic church right there next to it to blend the two together. Many places, saints and religious artifacts are seen as idols and protectors. On the side of a building in a broke down road with an orange cone in the middle, you zoom in, and I zoomed in for you, and there's an altar set up right there. They believe that this is somehow going to protect them. It's not doing a very good job if the orange cone is out, if you ask me. Here again, you have in the side of a building. I think that was in the side of a church. Here I'm driving by and I'm taking on my wild ride picture of an idol that's sat into this architecture here. And you can't read that, but the reality is, and I'll just summarize the letter. Don't even try to zoom in, Anthony. This is a letter that they got from a missions partner. They talked about a lady who had given her life to Christ, who had began to come with them, and she comes to their Bible study and says, hey, I'm going back to the Catholic Church. The reality is, it's so powerful. This ancient tradition is mixed up with all these other things. It's very hard to break free of it. And in these situations, people oftentimes will go back to it because one of the barriers, and we're about to look at it, is persecution. It's hard to be a Baptist in a place like this. It's hard to be a Christian in a place like this. And when you get baptized into the Baptist faith, That is the final holdup, and many people do not follow through. We think baptism, and it's just getting splashed with some water. It's getting dunked with some water, right? It's leaving the Catholic Church if you do that. And it is as much as if me and you were to go out into the center of Brooklyn and burn and stomp on an American flag in front of everybody, for them to get baptized into Christianity, into a Baptist faith outside of Catholicism and this understanding that they have of it, it's very different from them. And so I told my Sunday school class, I said, I think I'm going to get my dual translation, Spanish and English, and I'm going to memorize John 3:16 before I go down. That way I have something that I can give to them. The reality is it's not that simple. It's not as simple as just giving them your favorite Bible verse. They have heard all of those things, but it means something vastly different to them. It's the truth mixed up with many other things. And it's not the only thing that's mixed up, because another barrier to the gospel is false religions. These are Jehovah's Witnesses on the street in Oaxaca City. They're everywhere. It's probably the most predominant religion next to Catholicism. Why is that? Because it's works-based. It's this idea, their understanding of Catholicism is, I'm going to go and I'm going to sacrifice to this idol. And their understanding of Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm going to go and I'm going to do the thing and it's going to give me a better outcome. That's the way their ancient tradition, mixed with Catholicism, mixed with Jehovah's Witness, mixed with, there's a Mormon temple in Oaxaca City. All of this goes into, it's mixed up and confused. And on top of it is persecution. This is the site of a church that 100 years ago in 1935, Pastor Samuel Garcia and 5 other believers were meeting for a prayer meeting. And the Catholic Church of Oaxaca sent in people to kill them and then subsequently burned the church to the ground. So here's a close-up of the church and our prayer circle around it. 100 years later, and there's still no other than Catholic presence in this city outside of Oaxaca. When this happened, all of the believers fled to Oaxaca City, and the village remains unreached by the gospel. So becoming a Baptist or a Christian results in persecution. Often there are some serious repercussions. It might be this type of persecution. It might be denial of access to water. It might be denial of food. It might be denial of work. The repercussions could go on and on and on. And that leads to a melding pot of misinformation. All these falsehoods blend together, and it creates a very difficult way to present the gospel. It's a big barrier to get through in order to share the faith of Jesus. But there are churches in Oaxaca. Some of them look very similar to our own. Right behind my head right there, it says Primera Iglesia Bautista. And that doesn't sound like FBC. It sounds like PIB. Ooh, peanut butter and jelly. No. But it's First Baptist Church. This is First Baptist Church of Oaxaca. It exists. Isn't that cool? Just like First Baptist Brooklyn, they got First Baptist Oaxaca. Some look very similar to our own. Here's the fellowship hall at First Baptist Church. Here's the sanctuary at First Baptist Church. They have 220 in worship every Sunday morning, roundabout. I mean, they're doing great there in Oaxaca City. But again, it's a city of 700,000. And so you have a church of 220. We say, wow, they're doing great. But for the size, I mean, we're talking a very, very large city. There's not many Christians there. They even have a seminary. There's the Baptist Seminary in Oaxaca. But some churches look a little different. Outside in the villages, this was a church we visited with. You have your lawn chairs and you have your folding chairs. And their church does not last as you think Brother Taylor's long-winded. They go for a little bit longer than us, not very comfortable. There is the pastor's wife making the food for us back there in her kitchen. And this is us sat down at her table. She's about to deliver us a meal. They rent this house because the spacious garage allows them to have church in their house. Here we are eating with the church. Here we are worshiping with the church. We had a translator and some guys shared their testimony. Here we are after church. We went and we saw the place that they've just recently purchased land to build a brick and mortar church. And so they're hoping that God will provide for that. It will cost roughly $46,000 to build phase 1 and get that done. They've already got the land purchased, and the well dug, and their pastor is very exciting, very passionate. He drives a certain distance, and then he walks like 2 hours, and then he preaches at several different churches. And so his job is not near as cushiony as Brother Taylor's, but he's on fire for Jesus, and it was a pleasure to meet him. Pray for him. So what are our opportunities for Oaxaca? We're in the last phase. Hold on, folks. What's our opportunities in Oaxaca? These dots, this is Oaxaca. These dots are different villages throughout Oaxaca. Each orange dot represents an unreached people group. An unreached people group is a place where less than 2% are evangelical Christians. And that's a distinction because we've already talked about what Catholicism is like there. It's vastly different from what we would imagine here. We actually went to one of these places and we met, this is one of the young boys. This is the same place where the magical water, the tree growing out of the water, that site was. This little boy, he's in this picture, he's saying, photo, photo. He wanted to take a picture. And we should pray for them because they may be the very first Christians in their village. We actually came to this village to see the site. And it just so happened that while they've never had any connections to this village before, we arrived at a day when the village was doing a celebration. And we saw lots of people in the street where there's usually nobody in the street. And so I get out of the van first, and the little boys, they're looking and laughing. They've probably never seen a white guy before. And maybe I'm a little shorter than they had imagined. But don't worry, Randy Sims is about 6 feet tall. He steps out after me. And we took one guy on the trip with us. He's basically Goliath. He's 6'6". And he steps off, and the boys go wild. They're looking and checking it out, you know. They've never seen anybody his size. They're all really interested in it. And they walk by us, and they say something like, Estados Unidos, which means United States. And I said, sí. That's all I got for them, you know. I said, sí. And they lost it. They're laughing, you know. And so a connection is starting to be formed. Well, they start asking us and talking with the translator, do we know LeBron James? That's what they wanted to know. I guess it's because the guy with us, Jacob, is 6'6". They think he knows LeBron James. And so it turns out Jacob did actually play basketball. And so when they heard that, they invited us to come into the inner village and play basketball with them. A connection where a connection had never been made before. What did we do different? Nothing. Just by our being there and looking a little different, that was an opportunity for the gospel. It's ministry like I'm not used to because I'm used to using this. Y'all say, I know. But I have to use other things that I typically do not have. And so we got to play basketball with them. We actually bought them a new ball because theirs was basically busted and taped back together again. We gave them a Gospel of John in their language with some discussion question type things that they can work through, devotional things that'll lead them to the gospel. And we bought them a 2-liter Coca-Cola. Jose, the translator, got their numbers. And that day, one of the boys began texting him. After we left, Jeff took another team back. There he is again. There's Jeff with the boy again. There's more children this time. And girls. And so what has to happen next is Jeff will continue to make relationships. Then he'll go to the president of the village. Each village has a president. And he'll petition with the president. He'll bring these children with him. We would like to do a basketball camp. Nothing church related. Nothing like that. You build the relationships. You get in. And then a year later, you do a VBS. A year later, you begin to do door-to-door evangelism. That's the way the gospel works its way in. And so pray for these. If you want to write their names down later on, I have their names here. I'd love to share with you. There's 5 boys here. I have their full name. We should commit to praying that they would be the first Christians for this village and that God might work in their life. But ways that we can assist there is we could go back and we could do a basketball camp. We could go back and we could do outreach. We could do that in other places as well. There's opportunities there for that. There's also a Christian orphanage there. About 20 children live there. This is one of the murals. It's a verse in Spanish about Jesus and letting the little children come to him. About 20 children live there. Here's where they eat and they sleep. One of the children is he's over 20 years old. He's blind. It broke my heart because when we walked in, he's standing over there with his hands out and he's saying, "Hola, hola." He wants you to come and touch him and say something. And I work with children, and so I understand what he's trying to do. And I go over and I touch his hands and "Hola, hola." And it was just, it's heartbreaking because the way he got there is his parents heard that there's a Christian orphanage and they brought him, they dropped him off, and he'll never see his family again. These people can care for him where they couldn't. One's deaf, one has cerebral palsy, others have special needs and challenges. They have about 20 that live there, but 120 that come to their campus every day. They have a basketball, sports camps can be done here, VBS can be done here, art camps, love and own kids. I think we're uniquely suited as a church with educators that this could be a real option for us. We could also do evangelism. Here's Brother Randy Sims with the translator Fernando to his left, and a man that he's witnessing to. Randy gave his testimony and then talked with him about what it looks like to follow Jesus. When asked if he reads his Bible, the man could not get up, but right next to him, he grabbed what he thought was his Bible. It was a Jehovah's Witness Watchtower magazine. And then he said, "I can't read my Bible, the print's too small." So he grabs Santa Biblia, and he can't read it. The print's too small, but the Jehovah's Witness magazine, the letters are bigger. So where's he getting the Word of God? He's getting it from a cult. He's getting it from Jehovah's Witness. And so here's a man who ancient traditions, Catholicism, Jehovah's Witness, it's all mended together. And Randy's trying to have a conversation with him. It was a good conversation. But you could tell through all these barriers, language being one of them, he didn't know the Lord, and he thought he did. There's similarities between us and them. There's many people in Brooklyn, Mississippi who think they know the Lord. He thinks he knows the Lord, but he's very lost. He's looking at materials that are right there next to him from a cult. He believes he can work his way to heaven. It doesn't work that way. So we can evangelize, we can go out and share the gospel, we can knock on doors and partner with local churches. But I think what most of us can do, I'm winding down, folks, is we can pray. As I sat there and prayed for those as they walked by, you can't look at them and pray for them, but you can get their names, you can commit to praying for them. That's the most powerful thing that we can do for them. And the last thing we can do is we can give. Margaret Lackey's state offering helped me go on mission to Mexico. $400 of my balance was paid for out of the gate before I even asked the church for anything through Margaret Lackey. It's through Mississippi Baptist Giving that we're able to do these types of things. Through the Lottie Moon Christmas offering to the IMB, through the Annie Armstrong Easter offering to North American Mission Boards. These are the types of assistance that can be given, and where we can't do anything else, we can pray and we can give in order that somebody might go. And so that was a brief, believe it or not, recounting of my time in Mexico. I'm sure I missed something. Do you got a question?